The whole story is how the first round goes, and you're thinking to yourself, the first round is always the first step towards a championship. For baseball, it's of course the wild card series. That would happen if you get a 3, 4, 5, or 6 seed. You got to go through that round and then face those two division champs who have buys and all that. Sometimes that doesn't work out for the 1 or 2 seed. In hockey, it's of course 1 versus 8. Although nowadays, since 2015, it's been top 3 in your division and then 2 wildcard teams and all that. So your first step, it is kind of like a 1 versus 8 because, if you're the second wild card, you are technically the worst seed around. And you face the number 1 seed. For football, it's the fact that if you get a 2 to 7 seed, you will be playing first round matchups. If you're a 1 seed, you wait till the divisional round. And sometimes that doesn't work out. But in basketball, it's the same thing. It's simple 1 to 8 within the conference and all that. You just need to do well. 1 versus 8 matchups ending badly for the 1 seed are rare, few and far between. But what if I told you about a team that looked very good at the peak of coming oh so close to the NBA Finals the year before, and then thinking their first round thing was going to be one stepping stone towards going back to the NBA Finals and finally reclaiming the crown. That's right. We're talking about the 2007 Dallas Mavericks and how they, as a 1 seed, lost to an 8 seed. We're playing basketball sims. We're playing basketball sims. He's playing What If NBA. Cutter's doing What If NBA. Yeah. Oh, all the teams around the world got to know that the Raptors are number 1. But what about the Bulls, Wizards, and Pistons? They all have great stories about old teams like the Kansas City Kings and maybe even the Minneapolis Lakers. But we all know we're gonna do some basketball. He's doing basketball. He's doing basketball. What if Cutter's doing what if NBA? So what if NBA? So anyhow, the Dallas Mavericks have been around since 1980. A lot of people are shocked that Dallas is so young compared to most teams. Dallas has a rich basketball history with the NBA, with the Mavericks. But people forget that Dallas started out life in 1980. So that was kind of awkward. But yeah, basketball in Texas had, Houston and San Antonio had teams in the NBA. So why not add a third team in Big D in Dallas? Dallas didn't have a hockey team. They kind of had a baseball team, if you can count some fans for the Texas Rangers. And they did have the Dallas Cowboys, after all. So the Mavericks were decent. And in 1984, they had a chance to take down the LA Lakers. But Derek Harper made one of the worst clock management moves of all time when he thought his team was winning by 1 point and ran down the clock, but didn't realize the game was tied. So that mistake cost Dallas dearly. Dallas were crapola for many years and all that. 1993, they had one of the worst seasons in NBA history. Thankfully, not the worst NBA season in history. But anyhow, it was bad enough that, everyone thought that Dallas was just dying off and all that. They were going to be just as bad, pathetic as the Clippers. And this is in the era when the Clippers were actually making the playoffs. Nevertheless, the Dallas Mavericks drafted smart. They got Jason Kidd in that 93 draft. They got Jim Jackson in 92. You know, they had some good draft picks and all that. One big move was in 1998 when they picked up in a deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. They traded away Robert Trailer Robert Trailer to Milwaukee for the one of their first round pick. Some guy from Germany, you may have heard of him, Dirk Nowitzki. Anyway, Dallas picked up the pieces. Jason Kidd was decent. Nowitzki, Steve Nash was traded from Phoenix to Dallas, and he was just pure gold for Dallas. Michael Finley as well. Dallas, of course, lost a few of their stars, but by 2006 they were looking good. They had a chance to take out the Miami Heat quite easily in the NBA Finals, but a ill-fated timeout call by Josh Howard was signaling a timeout call meant that, you know, the ball could be in play and all that. It rattled Dallas, and they lost the last 4 games of that series. Of course, we're talking about 2007, so we'll skip 2007 when we talk about our pleasantries. Dallas would get their NBA championship in 2011. They were the team that sunk LeBron in his first attempt at an NBA title with the Heat, alongside Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. So Dallas got revenge for what happened 5 years prior against Miami, and it looked pretty good. The super team couldn't be around for long. Nowitzki played almost 20 seasons. Michael Finley played a long time. Dallas was just in it to win it. And then Dallas came about and got this guy named Luka Doncic. A lot of people thought he was going to be not so special. Hell, even ESPN went to commercial. Well, Dallas drafted Luka Doncic, one of the biggest slates ever. The joke was on ESPN. Doncic was decent. Well, he was the heart and soul of Dallas and all that. Unfortunately, though, he got traded to the Lakers this past season for Anthony Davis, and it blew up in Dallas' face. I mean, Doncic didn't do well in the playoffs as Minnesota took care of the Lakers. But the fact of the matter was that Dallas traded away Luka Doncic, and the fans were pissed off. So anyway, let's talk about the 2007 Dallas Mavericks and why they should have went back to the NBA Finals. So the 2007 Dallas Mavericks, it was their 27th season in the NBA. They were the runners-up of the 2006 Finals. Well, they should have had it. Dallas won 60 games in 2006, and they improved, if you can believe that. They got to 67 wins, top seed in the Western Conference, and qualified for the playoffs for the 7th consecutive season. Of course, this would be the first time, well, in the first round, they would meet the Golden State Warriors, and everyone thought that Dallas was going to roll over Golden State, but someone forgot to tell the Warriors and Baron Davis that, and they took them out in 6. The Mavericks would become the third number 1 seed to fall to an 8 seed in the playoffs, following the Sonics in '94, who lost to the Nuggets with Dikembe Mutombo and almost nobody else, and the Miami Heat in 1999, who were 1 seed but fell to those pesky New York Knicks, who went on to the NBA Finals, which shocked a lot of people. Now, to be fair, Mavericks, when they lost to the 8th seed, it wasn't like Seattle and Miami, because Seattle and Miami lost out in a best of 5. That's right. The first round used to be best of 5 before 2003 when they got extended to 7. So the 2007 Mavericks probably would have lost in, I think, 5 games. Nevertheless, that was just unbelievable. They didn't draft that badly, but the players. Mo Egger, J.J. Barea from Puerto Rico, Greg Buckner, Austin Crocier, the former Pacer, Eric Dampier, decent center, Dosenia Diop at center, Devin George before he went to the Lakers, Devin Harris, former Net, Josh Howard, the guy who kind of called that timeout wrongly, DJ Mabanga, Anthony Johnson, Pops Mensa Bonsu, former Raptor, Dirk Nowitzki, the star from Germany, Jerry Stackhouse, former Pistons icon, Jason Terry, sharpshooter, and Kevin Willis, former Raptor. They put up 67 wins, won the division over San Antonio and Houston, and were the best team in the West by 6 over Phoenix. Anyway, the Dallas Mavericks. I think the Warriors won 42 games, lost a tiebreak to the Lakers for the 7th seed, and beat the Clippers by 2. So anyhow, they split the first 2 games with Golden State at home. And unfortunately for them, they lost back-to-back games in Golden State. They were down 3 games to 1. They won on home turf in game five, but then 2 days later in game six, they got their butts handed to them. Howard Stackhouse may have scored 20, but freaking Baron Davis was on fire. This kid is on fire. Yeah, they didn't know who to start at center. Ksenia, Devin, or Eric. Dirk Nowitzki was named MVP. So that was just shocking how Hugh could be named MVP and his team just couldn't do too well. All that. Yeah, big trade there. So the 2007 Mavericks would have done quite well if it weren't for their buffoonery in the playoffs. But what would have happened if the 2007 Mavericks actually did make it out of the first round? So the Utah Jazz would have faced the Dallas Mavericks in the second round. The NBA, unlike the NHL, does not reseed afterwards for anything. So practically that means that whoever wins the 1-8 matchup in the NBA faces the 4-5 winner, even if that team is not the worst seed around. So the Jazz take on the Mavericks and then some. See what the Jazz can do against Dallas this time. I know Golden State gave Utah a fright, but Utah got to the Western Final. Game one sees the Jazz lose to the Mavericks as Josh Howard put up some decent numbers. 1986. Mehmet Okur, the man from Turkey. Carlos Boozer from Alaska. Darren Williams. Derek Fisher, moving from the Lakers to the Jazz. And Andrei Kirilenko being the main players for Utah. On the bench, Matt Harpring, been around Utah forever. Gordon Dijic, D. Brown, not that D. Brown, who was the Subject of 91. This was Illinois D. Brown. Jaron Collins, Rafael Araujo, former massive bust for the Raptors. CJ Miles, Paul Millsap, former Hawk. CJ Miles. Ronnie Brewer, former Razorback. Sweet! Roger Powell and Louis Edmondson. Mavericks, 20 points from Dirk Nowitzki. 14 from Howard. Devin, Austin, Buckner, Greg Buckner. Okay. Diop, Anthony Johnson, Edgar, Berea, Mabenga, Pops, Willis, and Stackhouse all scoring points. Game two sees overtime and sees the Mavericks win. Jason Terry with 20 points. Anyway, see Jaron Collins. You see 20 points from Boozer, 18 from Williams, 20 from Terry in 41 minutes. Jordan bench this time. Devin George, 14 points off the bench. Game three in Utah. Sees the Mavericks get their butts handed to them as Boozer puts up 30 points on home turf. George Howard puts up 24 to lead the Mavericks. Empty their bench, 30 points from Boozer, 18 from Darren. CJ Miles, 3 points, 4 minutes. Game 4 sees the Mavericks beat up on the Jazz. Dirk, 25 points, 10 rebounds, doing his job. 25 from Dirk Nowitzki. Not much else from the other guys. 22 from Mehmet Okur, only in 30 more minutes. Yeah, Darren Williams only scored 8 points in 33 minutes. That doesn't sound like him at all. And that's Rahul put up 8 points by himself. At 3-1, they go back to Dallas. And Dallas beats Utah. Only one team went on the road. So Dallas does their job. Nowitzki, 18 points from Boozer, 27 from Dirk, 21 from Devin, 16 from Josh Howard. Desonia, 8 points in 17 minutes. Nicely done. So the Mavericks did it. So wait, who was the 2007? It was San Antonio, wasn't it? I can't remember. Yeah, it was San Antonio. Because they beat Cleveland for the NBA title. Alberto. Yeah, right. If anything, it's going to be Robert Ory. Yeah, it's going to be Ori. Time to go to Dallas. And Dallas loses game one to Tony Parker, 16.6 assists, rebounding thing. Tim Duncan put up 23 points too. The great guy, Tony Parker, 16 points. Bruce Bowen, only 3 points in 31 minutes. Manu, 14 points in 28 minutes. Robert Ory, famous for his late game shots, big game Rob, as they call him. On that team, Brett Barry, former Golden State shooter. Fabrizio Alberto, Michael Finley, former Maverick, oddly enough. Francisco Ellison, Jack Vaughn, Matt Bonner, the Red Rocket, and Pino Udrih. 17 from Josh, 15 from Dirk. That was late. Game two. Game two sees the Mavericks lose again to the Spurs as Manu Ginobili puts up 24 points, and Dallas is in deep trouble trying to get back to the final. Manu with 24 points in 29 minutes. Howard, Terry, Nowitzki did go double digits, but nothing too high. 2-0 for Dallas, and that's the wins. Well, for Dallas to come back from, and Dallas does the same thing to the Spurs as Josh Howard puts up 27 points, 5 rebounds, 23 from Dirk. Devin George, 10 points off the bench. 33 points from Tim Duncan. Robert Ory went 19 minutes and couldn't score 1.0. Game 4 sees another win for the Spurs. So the Mavericks are in deep trouble. The Spurs win Game 4 to put things on ice. Manu with 26 points. So San Antonio trying to do their job and take down Dallas. 27 from Dirk in a losing effort. 26 from Manu, 20 from Parker. And then they head back to Dallas. And it's not over yet. 105-80. It's not over. Jason Terry, 25 points, trying to keep Dallas in this tournament. 19 from Manu Ginobili in this 26 minutes. Oh, they empty the bench. James White, Jackie Butler, Eric Williams, and Melvin Ely. Nowitzki, Howard, and Terry all put 20 points. Game 6. And we got ourselves a series. No, we don't. The Mavericks couldn't believe it. Well, losing the first 2 games at home was terrible, as the Spurs win in 6 and send Dallas home. So the Spurs would have won the championship anyhow. Dallas would have blown it. Tim Duncan, well, San Antonio are playoff tested with all those championships. I did Jackal score 8 points in 3 minutes. Matt Bonner, 11 points in 12 minutes. Bruce Bowen with 8 points. So the Mavericks would have blown a chance in the second round of the playoffs. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.